Hey guys, welcome back. I have an interesting project coming up, and this is probably going to be split up into multiple parts as it is a big project and there's a lot of stuff going on. What I'm going to be doing is working on this 1960 Chevy Biscayne behind me. It does have an inline 6, 3 on the tree. All of that stuff is going to be taken out, and we're going to be putting a LS 5.3 liter in here with an automatic. The owner of the vehicle doesn't drive it very much because every time he wants to drive it, it takes a lot of work to get it going. He has to prime the carburetor. A lot of times he has to flush out the fuel because he only drives it a couple times a year. What he's wanting to do is make a vehicle that he can drive anytime he wants, just jump in it and go. So in this episode, what I'm going to cover is what our plans for the vehicle are, what we're going to be doing, what's getting replaced, and right now we'll jump under the hood and take a look at what we got. So as you can see, this thing is very basic under the hood. It's got the inline 6 carbureted. It's got heat, but no AC. It does not have power brakes. Right there, that little guy is the master cylinder. It has a single line output that splits to the front and the rear. Now this engine does run and drive once you get it going, but it's been sitting for a few years, so we would have to flush the fuel system out, possibly rebuild the carburetor again, because that's been several years, charge up the battery, double check the fluids, and we can get this thing back on the road. But that's nowhere nearly as easy as jumping in it anytime you want, turning the key, and driving it. So the main thing under the hood is all of this stuff is coming out. It's going to be replaced with the 5.3 liter Chevy LS engine out of a 2-wheel drive truck. Behind that engine, we're going to be putting the 4L60E. Since we're not boosting it and we're not cranking up the horsepower, the 4L60E is plenty strong enough. And hopefully we won't have to do any modifications to the tunnel where the transmission sits. If you do the 4L80E, you definitely have to cut it out and put a taller tunnel in there. Now this has an old generator with the voltage regulator. All of that stuff will be coming out because we're going to be running the LS accessories with a nice big alternator to power up everything. Now this is a 12-volt car, so we don't have to convert anything there. We are going to be adding power steering, so we're going to have to change this gearbox. The control arm bushings are all shot. If we have that in the budget, we're going to rebuild the front end. We are going to be adding a brake booster and a new master cylinder to get power brakes onto the vehicle. Not sure if we're going to leave the battery here or not. We may relocate it. The radiator is going to be replaced with an aluminum radiator with electric cooling fans. That's it under the hood. Let's get the vehicle up in the air and take a look underneath. This vehicle has 4-wheel drum brakes. We are going to be converting to front disc, which means these 14-inch tires and wheels are going to have to go. I believe the minimum for disc brakes is a 15-inch wheel, but I'm not sure if the customer is going to want to go bigger than that. And you can see how long this thing's actually been sitting. The tires are dry rotted pretty bad. Now this vehicle does have an X-frame, which makes a few things a little more difficult. The drive shaft is in the middle of this tunnel right here, and there's a carrier bearing right in the middle. We will have to get a new drive shaft built because the other transmission is going to be a lot longer than this one. This one here is just a really tiny transmission. The 4L60E is going to be quite a bit longer. Not exactly sure how long, but we'll have to take this drive shaft out, send it to the driveline shop, and get shortened. Now this factory exhaust only comes out the one side. I believe this is 2-inch. It follows the X-frame, goes up and over the axle, and dumps out right behind the rear tire. We're probably going to be running the exhaust the same way, only it's going to be dual exhaust. Only we're probably going to run 2.5-inch, and we haven't decided if we're going to build the exhaust or buy a V8 exhaust kit that is pre-bent and then modify it to fit the LS motor. Now our current plans are to leave this rear end. If we have issues with it, then we'll have to upgrade. But because of the type of suspension this has, it'll be easier if we just leave this alone. And all the way in the back here, we have the gas tank. Now you can see this gas tank's been leaking for a while. It's got a pretty nasty dent in it, which isn't a big deal because we're going to replace this with a slightly larger gas tank that is manufactured to put an electric fuel pump in. The new tank will have a new sending unit and fuel pump assembly. I believe the new unit is also an inch lower, so he'll have to watch it. So I'm going to stop right here for today. If you want to see the rest of this project, make sure to subscribe and click that bell so you're notified of future videos. The next video in the series will probably be me removing this engine transmission, cutting out the exhaust, everything I don't need that's coming out of the vehicle. Because the first step is going to be starting with a clean slate. We're going to get that engine and stuff out of there. We're going to detail the engine bay, paint it up so everything looks good once we get that new engine in there. Now I already have an engine. We're going to have to do wiring harness modifications to that. Plus there's going to be some maintenance stuff that we want to do while that engine's out of the vehicle, because it'll be a lot easier doing it out of the vehicle than inside the vehicle. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time.